Maybe let's put this one right here in between the two of us.
So...
Should I... And I should talk. Like at
As far away from the mic as you can.
Very good. Oh, yeah.
This story is about two boys, once innocent, changed forever by a CW show. One of them wanted the other, a doofus, to also love the show. This is their story.
Welcome to RiverDorks, the podcast dedicated to the greatest show of ours or any generation, Riverdale. I'm John Erickson, and with me, as always, for the final time this season, is the USB stick to my Letterman's jacket.
Doo-doo Baskowitz.
Okay, you can just say your name, because you're going to edit this shit anyways.
Your name anyways.
Okay.
It's me, Roger Miller, your boy.
It's your boy.
We're here for the last time for the first time, and we've got a friend.
We're not alone.
Oh, hi.
Oh, hi. Didn't see you walk
Oh my
in.
god, what are you doing here?
I thought this was... Were we doing... did I
God.
get the day wrong?
A very tall ghost just appeared.
Alex has been loaning us his shit to record with since the beginning, and because of that, he gets the title of executive producer. And now he's here to watch this show with us, the RiverDorks.
Now, Alex, as executive producer, I'm sure you're very familiar with the subject of our podcast.
I think you know very well that I have come in what I think is probably the most prepared form I could be, which is consciously, I have absolutely no idea what this show is about. I've only heard the word Archie comics, to which I also have never read.
It's fair.
But you're familiar with Archie comics. Or like, as a concept.
I am about as familiar with them as I am to the cover of our podcast, as I am the executive producer. And I love the cover
Which is
of
to say you have
RiverDorks.
seen it a few times.
I have seen it a few times. I would recognize it while flipping through podcasts in my podcast app. I've never listened to it.
Great. Do you want me to try and explain to you what's happened this season? Or do you want to go in totally blind and cold and alone?
Wow, I'm like freezing up already.
You sold one of those so well.
I think I want to go in stone cold, not quite sober.
Hell yeah.
And then really dig into what this show is about. And I also feel totally ready to judge it.
Good.
Amazing. You heard it here. We're going to get right into it. We are watching Chapter 13, The Sweet Hereafter. We already know who killed the sweet redheaded boy, so what could possibly be left to delve into? We're about to find out.
I'm way more confused than I was about 32 seconds ago.
Perfect.
Great. All right, River Vixens, we'll see you on the other side. We've never done that before. That's That's a new
Occasionally
thing.
I say it, but then...
They made really beautiful eye contact.
Oh, fuck. Oh, fuck. He looks good in that jacket.
Call you later.
I'm guessing we don't like her.
I love her. I hate that she likes Archie so much.
Hey, Casanova.
And we love Riverdale.
What is your usual?
Thanks, Dad. I'm just gonna go wash my hands.
They got pussy all over.
You fuck.
Is he always like this? Wait,
What?
that was a... Pulp Fiction? What's going on?
No! Riverdad, sit down! What?
Imagine this instant.
You son of a bitch! I'll kill you, you son of a bitch! Is he... Oh.
Okay.
Oh.
Well, if I wasn't sold before, now I gotta know.
Now you have to... Now you're in it.
So if you didn't notice, I did start recording at that last 5 minutes.
Oh, you bastard.
Roger Miller, first reactions to the season finale.
He can't. I don't want to do this show anymore.
You don't mean that.
I wrote all these notes and now none of them mean anything because my dad has been shot. Dad has been. You shot my dad, you bastard.
I did nothing of the sort.
Oh, boy.
Alex, they shot my dad.
The recording-
I have got some questions.
The recording has begun.
Wow.
Okay, first question for you. Is Riverdale a good show?
Is Riverdale a good show? Okay, I think my first couple notes sort of sum that up. Very first thing I write down.
Yeah.
We're probably about 12 seconds in. Twin Peaksy?
Yeah.
Question mark? I'm going to go ahead and say about a minute and 10 seconds in, I wrote not Twin Peaksy, maybe Ever After? Question mark. That was sort of like Disney characters, and that wasn't Ever
Once
After.
Upon a Time?
Oh, Once Upon a.
I think it's Once Upon a Time. I never watched it. I know what you're the fairy tale one.
no,
though.
I
Yes,
must have
yes.
watched. I
Oh.
watched like 4 seasons of that, and I was obsessed.
The ABC family.
Yes, it was on ABC Family, but I viewed it as an edgy show. And
Listen,
as soon as I got there,
This is on the CW, so there's no. We can't judge
I mean,
network.
ABC
here.
Family can sometimes have much trashier.
You mean
things than this.
Freeform?
Okay.
I was
Fuck out.
I was totally on board. I was a little worried that their budget for the color blue was going to run out at some point.
That's fair. That's fair.
You just run out of blue light, blue paint, blue.
I did not worry that their budget for complete sentences and character exposition was going to run out. I felt like they were really holding back on.
You're dodging the question.
Oh,
Yeah.
Is Riverdale
A good show.
is
good show
Riverdale a good show?
/ the greatest show ever?
On the latter part of that, let's circle back. On the former, it would be silly for me to jump in. I mean, it's very entertaining if we're being dead serious.
Dead
and
serious.
God, 100%.
Yes.
The pacing was amazing. It's like
Yeah.
keeps moving.
Anything else about this show? It understands that to stop and breathe is to die, or like this as good as it is because things move at such a quick clip.
Yes.
And when you stop to wallow in, oh, I feel so sad about this thing, then that's when your show dies or becomes like another one.
And I love the like lunatic-y I love the fact that there's like suddenly a cast on dude's hand.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
but there's no bruising on girl who has now suffocated underwater and
In freezing cold water.
yeah.
You did.
She definitely died on that walk back. There was no doubt that
You
girl.
did
100%.
get peak lunacy in this episode.
And I was
though.
worried because the episode before this revealed like the big murderer for the entire season.
Yeah, it was
And
like
so I was a little nervous. I couldn't quite remember what happened, but I did remember this had the Cheryl Lake moment,
Wow.
and that did not then. And of course, I knew the season finale ends with.
And you motherfucker.
I'm so glad that didn't get spoiled for you, though. I was so worried between.
He's gonna pull through. He's gonna. Oh, John thinks he's not.
Well, John knows.
John
John
knows.
knows.
John
but
knows he's-
John won't tell Roger.
John
Right,
is
right,
2
right.
seasons ahead of everyone.
I see. I
Yeah.
see.
Roger doesn't know, and Roger is now on pins and needles. I hope my dad is okay.
To make you feel better, I just want to quickly jump to a reference to the multiverse that was dropped right in the middle
That
there.
Jughead. Is that the thing that you very enthusiastically underlined?
I got so excited there's an exclamation point after the word multiverse, Jughead. And I'm just saying, yes, please, let's connect this series in with Star Trek. Absolutely. Let's bring
Absolutely.
Twin Peaks in.
Yeah.
Maybe Garfield. I feel like you could tie in a like
could
real
get-
world
you could get
dirty
some
Garfield.
Garfield.
Live action.
Well,
oh,
that's
Dirty Garfield.
wouldn't that be fun if like they did like a Sunday comics? They just
Oh.
had the over
Like
of,
Foxtrot comes in.
Yeah,
for
yeah.
Better or Lois comes in.
Uh-huh.
It would be kind of a Captain America Marvel situation.
Exactly. You have
true.
if you have the Wizard of Id be the killer
Wow.
at the end.
The Sunday funny multiverse.
Yeah,
I guess.
actually,
I mean, yes, please.
the principal of Southside High is Dagwood. 100%.
Okay.
Asleep on the couch, letting those kids run amok.
Let's get to this top of the episode. We usually get first reactions, and then we sort of chronologically go through
Oh, yeah. No,
our notes and the episode.
I've listened to. I haven't listened to this podcast. I've listened to similar podcasts.
Some podcasts.
Yeah.
You mean we're not doing it incredibly uniquely?
Alice and Jughead start out, and they're like dueling banjos of narrators.
It's pretty great.
Normally, it's just Jughead doing his thing, but now we've got Alice.
So this is our moment also to explain a little bit about what you just watched.
First question, was that Jughead typing at the bar?
At Pops.
Yes.
At
Pops.
But that was Jughead.
That was a diner, not a bar.
Pops is the diner. It's the
Gotcha.
only place that food is served in Riverdale, and it's open 24 hours. And for some reason, everyone in town.
Yes, the show begins with narration from Alice typing up kind of the recap, basically, of the last 12 episodes. The fact that
She's doing my job for me.
it was Clifford Blossom at the end of the day who murdered his son, who started this whole narrative process at the beginning of it. We didn't talk a lot about what you might have expected this show to be. Were you expecting a murder mystery?
I'm gonna just go from the dark blue patina of the logo, 100%.
Okay.
I did expect. I maybe didn't expect it to both be dark and so light at the same time.
Like goofy.
Because
Goofy,
there was
dark.
like a reference to a murder, which I know everyone else, of course, has actually seen it and is on board with. But like, there's casual mention of there having been a murder maybe 3 times in this episode.
Yes.
This
Yeah.
town seems to have dealt with it just fine.
In the last episode, they found a man in a bathtub who had died of a heroin overdose.
Okay, these kids have amazing rebound
They
because there is
none of them are like
Absolutely.
I would be like shaking in fetal position in my room had that happened to me.
You would have gone full
2 days
Cheryl.
before. I'd have gone full Cheryl.
also very early question. How in the hell are these people so clean? I have never seen such well-bathed human beings.
Oh, everyone
television
is gorgeous.
history. Yeah,
Everyone is
yeah.
gorgeous from toe to tip. It's all...
Which actually was really good design because I got sucked in really early. I sort of knew the world. The level of consistency is really amazing.
Our stuff, whatever. We do our shit all the time. I want to go through Alex's eyes and recap the episode.
Well, I was very concerned about how many pancakes were being served to a table of 3 people.
So in this recap, we see finally the Cooper family back together. Polly's there after Polly was the ostracized daughter who got pregnant with the dead boy's child.
Twins.
The dead boy. Can we talk about the murder? Because
Yes.
basically it didn't happen in the TV show.
So Cheryl, who was the redheaded girl who threw herself in the river, her brother is murdered at the top of the season. So the whole thing is kind of an investigation into who killed him.
So that's explaining her darkness a little bit.
Yeah.
Yes, but also her family is kind of the underground villains of the entire town, the
So I'm
entire
so
season.
curious. That was where I was like, give me a little more Twin Peaks. I was like feeling that they have this like weird dungeon situation maybe.
Oh, they live in a haunted house for
They live
sure.
in an authentic. She has a Nana Rose who has one milky eye and like
and quote unquote gypsy blood.
gypsy
Oh,
blood.
yes,
Who at one
please.
point does literally predict the future.
If we're comfortable with saying things like gypsy blood, everything I wrote down here is going to be A-okay.
great.
We are quoting
Perfect.
gypsy blood.
Yeah, right. That's not my words.
Wow. Cool.
So right at the top, we've got Keller pushing FP to inform on the serpents, to
Yes.
dig up
Keller
dirt.
being the sheriff, FP is Jughead's father,
Who
who
is-
is the leader of the Southside Serpents, who are the local motorcycle
And who-
gang,
And
basically.
FP is specifically not dead.
Not dead.
specifically
Correct.
not dead.
FP is Jughead's father, who, and I wrote this about 5 times. I'm really,
You're FP?
yeah. I was really concerned also about the age difference between FP and his son. I'm thinking they may be 7 years apart in real life,
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
but probably not 7.
Skeet
maybe
Ulrich
5 years.
can't be.
Do you have any history with Skeet Ulrich famously in Scream? Did you kind of pick up on that?
Oh, was he in Scream?
Yes.
Scream.
The show has some in references to other 90s and 80s television programs. For instance,
And films.
yes. For instance, Betty's mom is
It's from Twin Peaks.
is from Twin Peaks. She is
Madchen Amchek. Her
but
Christian
she
name.
is-
Her actress name, a traditional term used to describe.
Her real person.
but she is is Shelley from Twin Peaks, who works as a waitress in Twin Peaks. So it does have ties and sort of these in-joke references to its source material.
And I can't be sarcastic about that. I felt it and I liked it and I really was on board very, very quickly.
Fantastic.
And yeah, the level of design and sort of consistency
Every place has so much haze. They double the haze budget in the next season. I'm very excited for that. They also I think they switch from like blue light to red light in the next season.
Yeah,
so
if the focus plane was any tighter, I'm worried that there wouldn't be a single clear pixel in the frame. I mean, it is a lot, but they lean in and it totally, totally works. Production-wise, I'm on board.
It's like the way we've always kind of put it is it's too much effort for the material. Like it's at its core like a goofy teen drama, but it's like the most well-produced version of that could possibly exist.
Well, and that's why it was, and I actually did have a sense just from like ads and stuff on TV that this would be the case. It was an easy show to fall into immediately and feel like I'm in on the joke.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, that's a very good way of
That's
putting it.
a good way to put it.
It's got that soap opera thing. You can sort of
Yes.
step in and you're like, these people, these are fucked up people. These high school fucking seniors. Now, hold on. Quick question.
Yeah.
I did write this down. Why the fuck do high school seniors, are they seniors? High school,
They're 16-year-olds. I think they're juniors.
At least juniors.
let's just rephrase that. They're playing 16-year-olds.
Yeah, right.
Why do high school kids always investigate murders? What is going on here?
It's a constant question.
That goes back all the way to the days of Scooby-Doo, though.
It's a real thing.
Which-
so yeah, I
There
did
is
feel
a
the
great
Scooby-Doo
Scooby-Doo
in there.
reference.
There's a great Scooby-Doo reference I feel we all caught, where in the recap of all the things beforehand, Jughead says they would have gotten away with it if it wasn't for...
Some pesky kids.
There you go.
I highlighted the word pesky kid.
So they do like this. There's so many references to so much stuff. Like the scene, and we're in like the first 30 seconds of the episode.
Yeah.
But Keller's pushing FP to inform on the serpents. And I wrote down, I was like, all of a sudden we are in The Wire. And then they make a comment 2 scenes later where
I'm so excited for you.
Where Kevin is like, oh, there's drugs out in the streets. And Jughead's like, we're not in The Wire, bud. And I was like, God damn
I think
it.
that what he said is, this is not The Wire, and I just wrote the word correct and underlined it.
This is fucking Riverdale, and it's so good.
So Betty is writing an article about what has gone on, but she's kind of like glorifying FP's role in everything because he's been arrested and is like vilified by everybody else still, which remains like a point of conflict between her and just about everybody else.
But the most important thing about this is that the couples are finally getting back together. We're finally getting that good, hot teen action. There's
Which is
a
what
moment
John is here for.
Yeah, I'm
That's
going
what
to
we're
take some notes about it.
all here for. There's a fantastic moment where Betty is talking to Archie, and they're kind of like after...
You mean Veronica?
Veronica, fuck me.
There's a Family Feud buzzer in your future, my friend.
Oh no. Where Veronica is talking to Archie about their burgeoning relationship, and she says, now that we're not investigating a murder, we can finally tell Betty about that we're sort of dating. Which is a fantastic concentration of basically what this show is. We need to take kind of some breaks from our teen romance so that we can go investigate a murder, so that we can deal with things that are way away from what a 16-year-old should be dealing with. And then the show quickly snaps back to what we all really want, which is hot teen VODs.
And I'm going to just sort of say John speaking for himself there. I wanted to do a drinking game in which we had a shot every time they said soulmate.
Oh, yeah.
was-
Which is it? This is the first episode that's been like a thing.
I feel like they're seeding something for the next season.
Yeah, it's possible. But Jughead and Betty, also known as Bughead, are the best.
They're the best.
And
Is
They're
he
dating-
Bughead because of the hat he got at Urban Outfitters?
Also, Jughead has been established as his legal name, not a nickname. But they're also dating in real life, and that's so beautiful and wonderful to me.
Veronica and Archie, on the other hand, make me so mad.
Roger
what was going
so
on with you,
upset.
buddy?
Okay.
Because Veronica can do so much better than Archie. She's wonderful and perfect. And even when Archie's like, ooh, yeah, I'm into it. He's actually like, but that comes with a caveat of, I'm still into Betty, even though this thing that is going on right now, even though the whole rest of the season I've been so desperate for a girlfriend that I couldn't appreciate what I had with Val, that I couldn't appreciate what's going on with you without thinking about Betty. You don't fucking deserve it, Archie. That's what's wrong with me.
I'm so glad to hear you say that, because I thought you were reacting on the couch while we were watching with it.
You thought I was mad at Veronica.
I was, and my
No.
hyper-masculinity thought that you were siding with the male in this case.
So it's
No,
an important,
absolutely not.
It's an important backstory of this podcast to know that we find Archie the least interesting character of the entire series.
No, if the camera only moved past him and never focused on him, that would be great.
We would all be happier. And to this show's credit, it knows that while he may be quote-unquote the main character, it never really rests its laurels on his adventures. It's really the people around him that have the most character development and are the most interesting. He's sort of just there as like a through line for everyone else to have more interesting things.
He's kind of the linchpin. Cheryl's mom is being extremely extra, and I know that her husband just hung himself in shame, but man, oh man, she's got the crazy dialed up to...
Do you want to explain a little bit about Cheryl's family to Alex?
If I had questions,
Yeah.
I was so unclear as to who was and wasn't alive in their family,
Yeah.
and also there's
So the last episode, we found out that Cheryl's father, Cliff, who had hung himself in the recap that you saw, he murdered his son, her twin brother, basically over drugs that they found in...
dime bags? I was unclear.
No,
on
they
that.
were finding they found big packs of heroin.
Okay,
Okay.
so the Blossom family has been evil from the very beginning. As in 2 generations ago, one of the Blossoms murdered his brother so that he would have full control over the maple syrup business that their family... So Cheryl's family is the richest in town, runs the maple syrup business, but as we found out at the very end of last episode and the start of this episode, also the main drug runners of the entire town, of probably a larger drug ring, because it's been referenced so many times that her brother, quote unquote, did not have the stomach for a business, which has finally been revealed to be
drugs. Now, the larger picture is where were the drugs going and what was happening with them.
It's sort of their transition into their next season. They have figured out...
Which is a lot like The Wire, I will say. I will say that.
So this was the second season?
This was the season finale.
Of
but it
one-
is
of
them-
season
Of
one.
season 1. So
Yeah.
next season is the one where they'll be at the shipping docks that everyone says just skip
Right,
that
just
one.
skip season 2. That's
Okay.
right.
Riverdale sort of does a different thematic, I almost said thematic theme, but really,
Yeah, okay.
This first season has been a very classic murder mystery with the hot teens all up in the mix. The second season does then transition a little bit to being more about drugs and kind of this like weird underworld that has now taken place in this town and becomes a little bit...
Sounds edgy, John.
It's so edgy, but it never rests on its laurels, which is what I love about the show. It does mix it up season to season, which is what has kept me constantly coming
And John
back to
won't
it.
tell me what season 3 is about.
No, season 3 is so good.
Can I just hit some bullet points just under the auspices of
Yes.
doing a recap? Hermione fires the serpents that are working for Fred Andrews. Fred is upset about that, but she kind of counters that by saying the lodges want to buy out Fred's project. Josie won't sing Archie's song at the Jubilee. Let's see, Alice won't publish Betty's story that she's writing. Although it is a pretty serious conflict of interest, and that's journalism 101, and I think it's an important lesson for Betty Cooper. They also mention serpent attacks happening in Riverdale in the South Side. Cheryl steps down as the queen of the vixens and bequeaths her... What's the word she used? I forgot to write it down.
I absolutely wrote it down because it is. She says the vixens are in the next room waiting for their new directrix.
Jesus Christ.
What is a vixen?
Oh, they're the cheerleaders.
Okay.
And also our listeners, the River Vixens.
Got you.
Hello,
got you.
River
Okay.
Vixens.
Hi. Hi.
Let's see. Veronica and Betty are talking about how something dark is coming in the town, and at the risk of failing the Bechdel test. I love that that's a line, but then also do fail the Bechdel test.
Sort of. Well, the Bechdel test would be the entire episode, which they don't.
That's true.
But this is one of the most referential shows outside of maybe like Rick and Morty or so, which references sci-fi tropes throughout the whole thing. But this has a lot of direct references to the Bechdel test, to The Wire. How did that affect your thoughts?
I was going to say, once again, because of that kind of those lines and that self-awareness.
Yes.
I felt totally taken care of, and I was totally on board. And I was like, these people know this is silly, but they're also trying to make it a little more complicated. It is funny to hear you do the synopsis because you're a third of the way through the episode, and it's just people saying they're not going to do something that then they do a little bit later on.
Or it's a what
Is that what life is?
What it usually happens to be is like everything leads to kind of a linchpin moment. Like there's one episode where there's a talent show that everything kind of leads into. There's one where there's a movie at the drive-in theater that they all go see before it shuts down that everything kind of leads to.
Sometimes it's Homecoming.
Sometimes there was Homecoming, fucking incredible.
But I will say in this episode, it is the Riverdale Jubilee, which doesn't live up to its name because it seems like just people. It seems like a town meeting.
You'd think there'd be dancing at a Jubilee.
Yeah, but it's just kids singing a song and then having a very serious conversation about honesty in journalism, I guess.
I was assuming we were coming in late to the event. I feel like we missed the cider and donuts.
Yeah,
I hope so.
The mixer, the light mixer
they did a light mixer and then they put out all the chairs and everyone sat down and then they got the serious, and maybe there was a dance afterwards, but we definitely got the serious side of the Jubilee.
Yeah. The other footnotes are kind of bullet points here. Social services comes for Juggy. He can't stay with the Andrews because Fred has a DUI under his belt.
How did you feel about that?
Come on, River Dad. I was like, River Dad is nearly perfect, except he's not.
One could argue this makes him more perfect and more human.
Yeah.
The fact that this was after his wife's divorce, he ended up getting a DUI. Not that we condone drinking and driving. However, at least they did humanize him by saying it was right after his wife left him.
He's like, God makes mistakes too.
Pope Buddy's nerfing.
Jughead crams a burger. Veronica tries and connect with him. She's like, hey, we haven't had any scenes this season, but I want to be your friend. But in the middle of that scene, Cheryl shows up and gives Jughead her spider brooch.
Which we have brought up before.
And I was like, this girl's about to do something drastic.
Oh, so you picked up on that.
100%.
So, coming in cold, Alex, what are your thoughts on Cheryl?
Obviously evil, right from the beginning.
Really? Because I was worried you wouldn't get that.
I mean, to every redhead I've ever been friends with, they are obviously evil, and there was no mystery with Cheryl right from the get-go. Plus, she dresses like a young hussy.
Oh, my goodness.
That said, she's clearly in her late 20s, and she can dress any way she wants.
There you go.
But to that end, there was no doubt from the very first shot that this girl was part of some dark shit.
Yes. Cheryl rides this interesting line where in the high school drama sections of the show, she is the villain.
She's Queen Bee.
She's Queen Bee. She's the villainess. She's the mean girl. But when the show expands to show the wider world and show her home life, living in this haunted mansion, having a dad who is actually running drugs and super evil, it makes her a very sympathetic character.
Did we meet her dad?
He was the one hanging by a noose at the very, very
beginning. I see. So he won't be on the show much more.
He won't be on the show much more.
Yeah, she did not seem to be healthy. And then did we get to the part where she plunges into a lake, or is
No, but we can talk about that. I think that's actually... Wait. Hermione asked Veronica to have Archie convince Riverdad to sell. She's like, I'll just sexually manipulate him. She's like, cool. And she's like, you're not serious.
No. Very specifically, though, she says, oh, okay, as long as you're in control.
That's right.
Which is... No, I need to get into it.
Okay.
Hermione Lodge, the black-haired maven, has been one of my favorite characters.
Raven-haired maven.
Because in this show... she has been one of the sane characters, which on a show like this, you really begin to appreciate. Because throughout the season, she has been one of the people who is like, I just need to get a job. I don't have any money. I'm going to go get a job. And it's a hardworking job. And there are other times where her daughter starts rebelling, and she deals with things in a very mature way. There's a part where a girl escapes a Catholic sanatorium, and she offers this poor girl refuge in her home and deals with things in a very adult way. And
Though she deals with Cheryl being in her place is
this
like
is the
less
start
than...
of her really turning dark. And it is...
Oh, that breaks my heart to
It's
hear
very
that.
interesting. Oh, I thought you would have picked up on that.
I did. I mean, I kind of did, but it was kind of but it made me so sad because like she kept using Hiram is coming home as an excuse, and I was hoping that she would like still hold out, but she felt very like resigned to that fact. Like Hiram's coming home, so we got to act right, which was to act wrong.
Yes, and this signals a full character shift with her, and I learned to appreciate this character shift because it bodes well for things in the future. But it is sad to lose one of the standout characters from the first season, and she does start doing things like being okay with her daughter having sex with a dude just so that his father would say yes to a money deal. We lose one of my favorite characters, but it does push this show into this sort of gangster-esque second season.
So her moral compass used to be pointed a bit more north?
One might say so, yes.
Yeah.
Wow. Because, she came off as
It's like
bad.
super bad, right? Yeah.
And yet there
she
are
doesn't normally.
So that's sort of pleasing to know that was a transition.
Yes. I think that's an interesting thing, especially coming into the season finale of a show, is that this show really does there is legitimate character growth from the first episode to this episode. In her case, it goes from her being kind of away from her husband and in this place where she knew it as a high schooler, but has since become this kind of up and coming. Before this, she lived in New York and has since come back because her husband's in jail. And she went through this full character growth of then having to find a job for sort of the first time on her own, working at Pop's Diner, but then has now immediately sort of sucked back into this criminal lifestyle, all because her husband is coming home.
And it's compelling, but we have to keep moving. Betty grills the S out of her mom. Alice comes clean about the pregnancy that she and Hal yelled at each other about. But you used to think that it was about Polly. It's actually about Brother Cooper. Whoa, there's a Brother Cooper, and I would put my fucking money on the fact that it is the Foster family that picks Jughead up, because that's how this fucking show works.
I'm not going to hijack and derail this podcast to try to decode what you just said. But there
There's
was
a
that
lot of
joke about
levels.
Macbeth and Shakespeare. And at that moment, I realized coming in on a show like this with so many plot points, this might as well be Shakespeare. And I might as well have a very poor grasp on Old English.
Right, you're a high school freshman coming in and you're reading Hamlet for the first time.
Like a 36-year-old playing a high school student. I'm in.
Put it in writing, the show is better than Shakespeare. I want to cut to, after Betty talking to her mom, she has this very tearful moment with her. Cut to her just talking with her friends and going, the craziest thing is I have a secret brother out there, which is one of my favorite lines from this entire season.
Was that new information?
That
was
was,
new
yeah.
information.
Okay.
I was worried you wouldn't know.
They've kind of teased at this pregnancy that they'd had, but you assume, or you're left to assume, that it's actually they're talking about Betty's sister Polly. But now we have this like new secret brother who's been like introduced to the mix.
Probably involved in the drug trade.
He's probably a Blossom.
Speaking of Betty having an argument with her mom.
It's funny because we just came on the note. I was going to ask if you wanted to talk about the use of a mirror in the cinematography.
Oh man.
If I was coming in originally to this show, I would set low standards for it, but it constantly breaks that thought. There's a moment where Betty is going toe-to-toe with her mom. She literally says, like, oh, you want to go?
Which is such a cool like flip-flop from episode 1 where her mom is very like controlling and Betty kind of like is subservient and kind of tight-laced and not.
And in that show, they all often use the visual motif of Betty's mom. While Betty was in front of a mirror, Betty's mom coming and sort of looming over her, putting her hands on her shoulders, giving her advice on makeup. And in this episode, Betty finally goes toe-to-toe with her mom and wins. And in this argument, the camera slowly pans over to show the reflection of her mother, thus framing Betty between her mother and a reflection of her mother, giving the beautiful visual motif of her being surrounded by this woman's control, and yet
But Alex hates it.
I want John to finish.
She conquers her mother, and they grow closer because of it, and it is so much more effort than was needed for a silly teen drama, but I love it. They put in that effort.
Everything John is saying about the story construction, about the arc of the journey, I'm on board with. Do I understand it? Not entirely, but I am on board. I can feel the veracity, the validity, but I have to push back against the idea that taking like a $10 Home Depot mirror and managing it to stick it in the frame, nothing had pulled me out of this episode. Like watching that terrible piece of cinematography, that half-assed. I felt like they accidentally panned to the wardrobe mirror.
Well, what's
It's
interesting?
a design moment.
Right. Is it Alex's like his cinematography background coming out?
I mean,
to be
I
like,
couldn't have thought of an easier way to get that mirror into the shot. It didn't feel earned.
But I will say it had
What
to
I'm
have
saying is
been
snobby.
It had to have been an effective moment because the three of us all commented on it when it happened. So even if it was an easy choice, we were all like, "Oh, that though." Whether or not it like resonated with you or felt like the right move.
Part of why this show is so easy to get into is they make choices and they stick to them.
And we have
100%.
talked about the fact that this show kind of will make the easy choice, but in service to the audience. There's been a major mystery throughout the episode, or throughout the entire season, but single episodes will have mysteries that are then solved by the end of it.
Yeah.
You have moments where, like, the serpents are originally revealed, and then pretty quickly it's revealed that it's Jughead's dad. This show doesn't string out things for the longest time period. Never mind, cut all this. I can't.
I think what John's trying to say is valuable. What this show does really well is it translates. I did grow up on the Sunday Funnies, but I don't think the Boston Globe ran the Archie comics
Also,
series.
we keep bringing this up, but Archie wasn't in the Sunday
Yeah,
Funnies.
Oh no, it was a comic book.
Yes.
Yeah. No,
It's a long running comic book. The artistic style of it is very similar to kind of Sunday comics. Like,
correct. Well,
Very
it's
good.
unforgivable.
And there may actually be a Sunday comics version of Archie, like there was of Spider-Man and like that.
I think we've thoroughly backed up that I don't know what I'm talking about.
None of
but
us.
to back up what John was saying, this show is incredibly smart about pushing plot fast and letting big events take place,
Thank
which
you.
is really
Yeah.
satisfying when everyone is as sexy looking as they are and there are no consequences.
It's almost like every episode is an event comic in it, to use comic parlance, in that almost nothing is filler. Everything has there's big moments all over the fucking place, and it's like,
but it literally feels like nothing matters.
Or it feels like everything.
or everything matters because the stakes are so high all the time.
I feel that duality, but as a person who like will shower twice a day just to like get the grit of the city off of me, I desperately want to stay as clean as these people can while living their dirty fucking lives.
Yeah. Then we go to South Street High or South Side High. Jesus, I'll never get it right.
How did he get there so quickly? What the fuck happened?
He just went.
Well,
he
I think
just
it was the next day. Jughead calls Betty on a payphone.
payphone at the high school.
payphone
and
at
you
the
see
high
in
So
the
this is a
background.
period piece from the
And not
1990s.
only now we're in Oz because it's there. We get in the background. We're seeing everybody go through like the security screening. So it's like The Wire and
You
Oz.
clearly didn't grow up in an urban environment.
right.
That's just realistic.
God bless you, Colorado.
How-
Jughead's journey through this episode is basically him talking with his father behind bars, but then him being told by a social service agent that he kind of has to leave Riverdale.
Okay, I'm going to be honest. That scene was garbage.
Oh, with the
The social service explaining
that you have
foster
to
home
go to
situation.
South
Yeah.
Side.
Also, he's fucking towards the end of high school. You're gonna go live with another family for a year. This is not a big deal.
Also, the fact that it would turn around in like a week. Like, I don't know a lot about the government, but I know it doesn't go very quickly.
I know the government is shut down. I don't
especially
know what
these
the
days.
release
Yeah.
schedule of this podcast is.
Jughead would have been fine if it would happen
Yeah.
now.
Is this a period piece?
Why don't you tell us? What do you think?
I feel that
When is this show set?
the TV series that we can't remember the name of that I really liked from ABC called, I feel like there's a dot. Is there an ellipses in
Ever
it?
After Upon a Time.
So there's that TV show that I was
Yeah.
a big fan of, and that one felt like it lived slightly out of time, but definitely about 10 to 15 years before it was made. And I feel the same way about this. It's like we've deleted all of the troubles and tribulations. You're both on your phones right now. And like it felt like we got rid of cell phones and that the internet maybe doesn't exist.
But they
do
do,
think it's called Once Upon a Time.
but they do communicate with each other on their cell phones. Cheryl sends Veronica, like a main plot point is discovered by Cheryl sending a text to Veronica.
So then I just want to know, does Jughead have quarters in his pocket or did he have a phone card?
I think it is the classist nature of this that he is just so poor that he doesn't have a cell phone. But I think it's also for plot convenience, maybe? Because Betty has texted him in the past before.
That's something that we have actually talked about in the past, is how ambiguous a time frame that this show exists in.
Definitely Once
It is
Upon a
Once
Time.
Upon a
Love
Time.
that show.
Right. I think it's part of also the visual motif you get from his dad being in prison with the famous one phone call to now him in a new, very gray
Prison high school.
a very gray colored
Oz.
high school, and he is calling from a payphone.
As a student of a public urban high school, I'm mildly offended by this conversation.
Well, and that's the thing is like they rag on the South Side so much. I'm convinced that most of the characters in this show are classist, and it's one of the few things that they don't actively address, but they just use South Side as like shorthand for bad, and it's just because they're a lower economic status than the rest of the town. And
guess-
it's been like a constant running thing through the whole season.
And that's the 90s, kind of like 90s and everything before it. There was always that kind of class trope that the bad kids are poor. Yeah, across the track.
Other side of the tracks.
And I like
Kids.
that. It's fun.
Jughead is now at Southside High. They finally find out about it after Jughead's dad had told Archie that he would start pulling away. It's actually a very good, poignant line where he says, he'll start pulling away from you. He'll start retreating into himself. It's good writing. I don't care what you say. That's good writing.
Don't know why
I
you
didn't
looked at
say
me when you said it. All right, quiet.
The gang finally finds out about it.
So he sits down at the cafeteria and he's suddenly surrounded by a bunch of thuggish looking South Side kids.
A lot of leather jackets.
We cut back to Riverdale High.
Credit to the director for spreading them out like West Side Story. Beautiful composition.
Right.
That could have been the 80s, so I don't want to.
And we cut back to Riverdale High and they're like, Jughead's at Southside High. We gotta go save him. We have this like stupid like pull back in the hall and everyone is like scrambling.
Slow
to,
motion
like
running.
literally doing like a Tom Cruise in Risky Business slide across the hallway.
It is, I will give it is an unearned sudden moment of slow motion.
I had no idea what was going on in that moment of the TV show.
They run all the way to Southside High. They run through the metal detectors. They rush up behind, which, if it's really like a security thing, like they failed pretty spectacularly in that
every single
moment.
one of them definitely had like cell phones in their pockets, so that should have set it off, but they all just kind of hop through it.
But they get to the cafeteria and Jughead's surrounded by these thuggish looking kids. But then we find out that Jughead's like holding court and like they're all laughing at whatever
everyone
he's saying.
loves Jughead at Southside High.
So
I
just-
felt good for him.
Yeah.
I felt like this kid is in the right place
Yeah.
now.
So
That's
just
the
leave him
crazy
alone.
thing about this moment is that the entire conceit of Jughead's character is that he doesn't belong, and that at this kind of preppy Riverdale High, he is the weird kid, and he literally calls himself the weirdo, the weird kid. He doesn't belong. There's some talk in an earlier episode when he starts dating Betty. He says, "This doesn't make sense. I am the oddball. I'm meant to be a loner." But when he is with Betty, he becomes a better person. And when Archie has always been his best friend, and that has influenced him to no end. And yet, when he is put in the situation that he has fought his entire life to get away from, to be in the South Side where his dad put down roots, where he is always shunned, he's finally seemingly happy
Like
and
home.
popular.
Well, and they pull that in later when like all of the serpents show up at FP's trailer when he's there, and they like give him his jacket, and it's such a fucking good moment
Such a cool
where it's
jacket.
kind of like oh, you're home now. And it almost feels like you're almost rooting for Jughead, because even if they've been demonized through the entire season thus far, he's found like a family or a home or a place to belong.
You're confirming what I was feeling the whole time, because the name the Serpents indicates that that group might be bad. However, indeed, he seemed so happy to
Right.
be part of a thing. Also, Roger lost control and kept screaming how good he looked in that jacket.
God,
a
it
great-
and
looked
he
really
looked
good.
really good in that
that
It's
jacket.
legit. The costume design for this show is fantastic every single time.
That said, but with American Apparel out of business, I'm worried they're going to run out of some of those shorts.
Every single serpent has a unique jacket that then has, the unifying serpent logo on it. But Jughead's jacket is a full-on designer jacket.
Yeah.
Like, it fits him perfectly from the
And
jump.
he looks so fucking good in it.
But I think that's an
In Soho, that
important-
motherfucking thing going to cost you $2,400
Oh,
at
it's
least.
so good.
At least organic leather, maybe.
they're selling heroin, so they got money.
That's a good
Serpents
point.
don't run hard drugs.
That's
they only do
true.
dime
They
bags.
do dime bags. That's what they said.
Watch your ass.
John's eyes are the size of saucers when he says that.
God.
They're at Southside High, and then Veronica gets a text from Cheryl, and she says, "I'm going to be with Jason now. Bye-bye."
This
Is Jason the fellow in the pond, the river?
He's the dead
he
boy.
is the vision that she sees.
Was that a vision or was that a real boy?
Well, it was a real vision. It was a fake vision of a real boy. He was the murdered brother.
And that's where the cinematography for this show completely falls apart. That and the flashback needs some kind of patina of something that tells me it's not practically exactly the same thing as reality.
Like that she didn't actually see her brother
There was
floating there.
nothing
have to
indicating
pee.
that.
But
bad.
but I think that is
Oh,
a
he's
very
back.
good conceit.
It's not out of line of the design of the rest of the show.
I think it is a cheaper idea to suddenly make it obvious that what she's witnessing is a vision, and instead it is a spookier moment and a more connective moment to that character.
And the thing I'll point to is there's the moment in episode 4 or 5 where Archie's playing the talent show, and he keeps seeing the jocks flip in a moment to all wearing like these spooky werewolf masks. It's the same kind of thing where the lighting doesn't shift. There's just a moment where they have a quick cut and they're in these werewolf masks, and it's him like having this anxiety dream, and then cuts right back to reality.
I'm 99% sure that whatever I'm imagining based on your really good description is better than what happens in the TV show.
Maybe. It's a good moment. That we called that moment out as good.
Speaking of this entire moment,
Oh yeah, John didn't let us write notes during this bit. Also,
yeah.
he was like, "Shut up and watch."
And just a quick question. Is that because of the feelings that you have for the character who... Okay, yeah.
Cheryl is John's queen.
So, but she would be a lot to handle, John. That woman
no, I
would
could
be...
never. I could never. She
I
is.
don't even think you'd want to get coffee with her.
I wouldn't. No, she would destroy me. I'd love every minute of it. Knowing her backstory, that's what makes her my queen. Is she is so above. I'm a mere pauper, and she is a queen. This scene.
But she's so broken.
This scene where, man, we are pure white. It is snowing in this episode. We are in full winter.
Definitely not comfortable with the term pure white, by the way.
The seasons are finally changing in Riverdale.
Alex just wrote down and underlined "pure white." We're done taking notes, and Alex is now taking notes on
Very
you.
uncomfortable with this. We'll bring it up with John later as executive producer.
They go to try and stop her from doing whatever they think she might be doing. Of course, she's trying to drown
herself in the
herself.
river.
Is she?
She is pounding the ice. She goes into the
But
ice.
she called them first. It's a desperate cry for attention.
Right.
Yes.
Which she had been doing from moment one. Like, she says something to, I think, Veronica, and then there's the moment where she gives her spider brooch away. And
Yes.
I was like, that's a red flag. She's like giving everything up. And
And I think that's a positive thing for the show, because when I first watched it, I had no idea. I did not register that as a red flag at all. we have brought up the spider brooch before, that characters have kind of iconic looks.
And she even says, my iconic spider brooch.
It's
You
so
can have
good.
it and sell it.
I love her.
She pounds her way through the ice in the, maybe tensest moment of the entire season so far.
How do you think she made that hole? I really wanted to know.
Because Archie had a really hard time, and she kind of is like... pop,
Demonstrated
pop, pop, pop.
by a lot of blood.
Yeah.
Welcome to my TED Talk about the visceral nature of this scene and why I think it is genius.
We're in it.
Yep, okay.
The natural human response would have been to run up and start kicking down into the ice. That's how you would quickly break ice. But no.
Nope, not necessarily.
Really?
I don't know.
You would punch ice?
Well, there'd already be a hole there. That
You're
was
not
one of the
wrong.
first things
No,
I was confused about.
they ran up, they see the hole, and then they see
And the
that
current
she is
starts
caught
taking
in the
her away.
currents. She starts moving away in these gorgeous underwater. She's just floating against the ice. They look around, Archie finds her, and then he punches the ice. And I saw this episode alone in this very room, and when he punches the ice and it cuts and it shows the blood splattered on there, I had a legitimate moment.
To be fair, and I know John reasonably well, if you walk up to him in the middle of the day in a crowded room and tap his back, he makes the same sound and reaction. So I'm not 100% sure that's the...
But that's real life. This is a series that's not meant... It is occasionally meant to startle, but I don't think this is a moment that's meant to startle. This is a moment of a show that is wildly off the rails and crazy most of the time, that digs down into moments of reality that blow my mind. And in this case, it is the fact that Archie punches and spills his own blood on this thing, and it's a realistic take of what would happen if you just started pounding on the ice. But I think it's a great character moment. It is Archie's first amazing character moment.
First good moment from Archie,
where
I
it
will
shows
say.
that he's, yes, so dumb and isn't, like, breaking the ice in any sort of smarter way, but instead knows that all he has is his constant will and his constant need to do the right thing, and so literally just starts punching the ice to try and save this girl. It's a genius
very
moment,
cool
and I have
scene.
thought about it every single day since I've watched that episode.
I want you to have it, but that girl dead.
Wait,
that
one
girl,
sec,
Oh, she's
one sec.
so dead.
Wait, this has been my TED Talk. Go on.
Great. She's super, super dead in any kind of realistic sense.
Yeah, she was underwater for a very...
Very long
I'm
time.
just worried about the temperature. I think
Yeah.
on that walk home, her little heart.
Yeah, they'd never... Archie's shown, like, running with her. They really should have... All of them were wearing very comfy jackets. They
I
really
hope
should
her
have
and
wrapped her
Archie
up in
get
something.
together eventually. I feel
They
like
kind of have in the past.
Okay.
Sort of.
In my first TED Talk, she kissed him.
Yeah.
And it's a genius moment from this show, but we'll move on.
So Archie has this brilliant, like, it's maybe my first time that I've, like, liked Archie. I've been like, yes, fuck yeah, Archie, okay. But then he follows it up with this bullshit where he's, like, looking over at Betty and Jughead, and he's like, oh, Betty, oh. And they had a scene earlier where he almost is like, yeah, but I still like you. And Veronica, who is wonderful and perfect and doesn't deserve Archie, is like, what's wrong? Oh, you're looking over at them. But we could have, like, what they have. And he does this thing where he's like, I want to have what they have as a way of, it's my version of being with Betty. And it's, like, gross and manipulative
And unearned, because
unearned.
in the very first episode, he turns Betty down. Betty comes to him after a big buildup of like, oh, all summer I've had this thing for you, and all my life I've had this thing for you, and he's basically like...
And he's like, meh.
And so for him to suddenly have these like, I always thought maybe you and I think a line that is there because in the Archie comics, it's always been implied that Betty's the right one for him. And this show is all about subverting the original Archie comic tropes.
Gee golly gosh.
I don't know why I knew all that, but I knew all that.
Yeah.
Because this is the greatest show on earth.
I was with you right up until that part.
Betty
Yeah.
and Veronica is like, that's like culturally like,
It's
I don't know,
just-
that's like
yeah,
in
if you
the,
say Betty and Veronica, I know
you
what
know,
you're talking
yeah,
about.
Yeah.
you know that there's like the good girl and the bad girl, and they're both pining over the same boy who doesn't deserve either of them, and that's like the central conceit of the comic, and the show doesn't necessarily use that as its center, but you see it more in the last couple episodes. But then we go to the Jubilee, and I've been wanting to talk about this for 2 hours at this point. Val's outfit, holy shit, Val's outfit. Val in this episode has no lines, but she has one of the best character moments, and it's when Josie and the Pussycats have to play Archie's stupid song, and Val's playing the piano, and she looks like she would rather be anywhere else in the entire fucking world, and her hair is so good, and her outfit is so good.
She looked like she joined the Black Parade, but
so
in a good
mad.
way.
She looks so mad. Oh, I love it. I love it, and I love Val, and I want Val to be happy.
Alex, are you wondering who Val is?
I'm wondering, seen the trailer twice for Josie and the Pussycats, a film that's coming out soon. Who are they? What's going on?
Val is a pussycat. She's playing the piano. She and Archie were dating, ostensibly.
For like 3 episodes, although they're very rarely shown on camera together.
And Archie takes way advantage of the situation and also like takes her for granted and is shitty to her. Her glare is so good. If you don't know their history, it's whatever, but if you do, oh my god, there was so much like value in that moment. Hashtag value.
Thank you.
Yeah. That's a Hope Morava original.
Bless you, Hope. Oh, shout out to Hope, one of our past guests. All the girls were finally wearing jackets in this episode.
She'd be so happy.
She'd be so happy.
But then Betty shows up and gives her
then
speech.
Betty.
And she's like, the mayor convinced them to give this speech based on her wanting to kind of take credit for the investigation and also like paint this wholesome picture, but she didn't want Jughead to be there because his dad's in prison. And so naturally, Betty gives this speech glorifying FP. I wrote down she gives her pipe bomb speech. Very, very CM Punk.
Very CM Punk. That's a wrestling reference.
It's extremely like, here's the way things are quote unquote supposed to be, but here's how they actually are, and it's a great moment.
What did you think of Betty? I know it was hard to kind of follow which character is which.
No.
Betty is the blonde detective, more or less.
Yeah, no, I was with Betty. I felt like my job was to sympathize with her a little bit. I felt that she was probably the good girl. She seems to me someone probably troubled, suffering with an overbearing mother who very possibly needs to learn how to define herself, absolutely needs to speak out about who she wants to be in a relationship with. I get a feeling that Jughead isn't just a disappointment to her, but really a mismatch based on... It's not that they come from different sides of the tracks. That's fine. I think what's really going on there is that she is rebelling against her mother by dating this person and sort of going against her family's values, which is a great thing to do, but a really bad way to connect with another person. So I feel psychologically she needs a lot of work.
You started so positively, and then you said something against Bughead, and I can never forgive you for that. Because they're perfect together, and I love them. And Jughead shows up, and Roger asked me what his sweater is made out of.
What's his sweater made out of?
Boyfriend material!
Boom!
You know
He's
what?
looking so good.
Bug is not a good boyfriend. He has so much personal work he needs to do. Both of them.
Both of them.
Both of them need to be in therapy, not together.
They're broken together.
No,
though.
what they are is broken and physically
And
in the same
pieces
space.
will only fit together.
I think specifically
Together.
not. I think that probably they can only help each other find what they're not looking for. They both seem like decent people.
Then we've got a couple quick things. Riverdad is like, I'm in it, Pard. He's like, hey, Hermione, I'm not taking your sellout. I'm in this because I'm in it. Then everyone else goes out for milkshakes. They're celebrating having solved this murder mystery and also saved Cheryl, and everyone's on a teenage high. So they all go off to separate places to fuck. They all go off to fuck. And I'm only happy about half of it. Jughead takes Betty to FP's trailer, which is kind of like, that's not the best place to go. But where else are you going to go?
Yeah, that
I get
is
it.
arguably
I
the
get
best
it. They're
place.
16. It's cool.
Kinda
whatever.
sexy.
But then he tells her that he loves her. I wrote down, then they fuck on FP's couch. But then they cut back and they're like about to do it in the kitchen, which is even better. But then every serpent shows up and they're like, yo, FP didn't call us out. So here's your badass jacket, Jugs. And he puts it on and he looks so fucking good. But then Betty disapproves so hard.
so hard in
And that
front
makes
of
me
him,
so
but
sad.
it's so good.
He's the Southside Serpent Prince now.
Meanwhile, what's happening with Archie, Roger?
Veronica and Archie are about to bang. And I was so mad because Archie doesn't know what the fuck he wants and Veronica's too good for him and he doesn't fucking deserve it. Even if he does punch his way through the fucking ice to save their friend, he's God, he fucking sucks. And I'm sorry to that guy that we said we wouldn't bash on Archie, but I'm fucking bashing on Archie.
To our wonderful listener.
Because he doesn't know what the fuck he wants.
But Roger, and as a newcomer, I'm sorry, I see a lot of energy here, but those were two beautiful hard bodies.
So beautiful.
Here's the difference
Yeet!
between those hard bodies. Betty takes her own shirt off. And that is
shit.
a small but amazing. Archie unzips Veronica and then kind of helps her out of her dress.
Flips her out of her skin. He unzips her entirely.
Betty
This
takes
is the
her
show about
own-
the lizard people, right?
Yes. Betty takes her own shirt off. And that is a very small but important detail about the history and the future of these two relationships. I don't know if it is the fact that Cole Sprouse and Lily Reinhardt are actually dating in real life.
Were they dating in this
They
season? Oh my god.
This
Thank
was
you
like
for that background.
right at the start.
It's
So,
too pure.
I don't know if this is the show leaning into them being a real couple and thus having that natural chemistry, but something about them just feels so much.
It's because Jughead doesn't have his eyes on another fucking girl. Fuck you, Archie.
And it's also,
get out of here.
This has been like 5 episodes in the making, and Archie and Veronica kind of only started.
It's like 2
kindling.
episodes, and Archie's not even fucking into it. And he just broke up with Val, and he's on the rebound, and he's got fucking mommy issues, and he can't fucking figure it out. And then that's the only thing that happens in this episode. Nothing else happens, and that's the end. And you're a son of a bitch.
I'm just so glad those young teen hard bodies found each other, and that it was shot so well.
So there's Archie.
I don't want to talk about it.
Archie wakes up the next day,
Oh, you can't do this.
and
It doesn't happen.
Archie is leaving Veronica. She calls him out for leaving immediately. He says it's because my dad wants to talk to me at Pop's, and it's always serious business when we're going at Pop's for breakfast. So
What was he gonna tell him?
Good question.
Archie heads to Pop's to see his dad, and he says, 1 second,
And nothing happens.
1 second, I need to go wash my hands, which has never been done on television ever, unless
when
it was
you-
for a specific plot.
and when
line.
I'm
you
going to say
have-
that fits in with my feelings that these are the cleanest people I have ever
I
seen
have
on
to get
television.
clean. Even though one of his hands is in a cast, I was kind of like, okay.
Oh,
Yeah, you have to put a plastic
Riverdale.
bag on. It's a whole thing.
Roger, do you want to...
No, I don't.
So,
It didn't happen.
while Archie's in the bathroom, he hears some commotion, and he returns to Pop's proper to see a man in a mask holding a gun to Pop's head, and then makes eye contact with his father,
Who
His
has
father-
stood up because he's noble and good and brave.
Was that a mask or a balaclava?
Yeah. It is a full mask. There are eye holes cut out.
It wasn't
Well,
just
but-
a long hat with a hole.
I mean, it might have been it was a homemade mask, one might say.
It was a bit crap.
It wasn't great.
It was cheaply made. It'll become a major plot point. And then the man jumps down after Archie's dad signals him for him to stay away. And Archie's dad stands up because he believes in doing the right thing, and he sees a situation that might call for a man to do the right thing. And he stands up, which brings the notice to the man with the gun in his hand and the shittily made mask, who points his gun at our dear beloved Riverdad. And Archie runs forward, and we cut.
There's a bang.
We cut away to see the exterior of Pop's. We see a bang. We see the man run out of Pop's. We hear Jughead say that this is the moment where all innocence was finally lost from Riverdale. The town with pep, as their sign says. And we cut back in to see...
Riverdad is bleeding on
Riverdad
the
is
floor.
bleeding on the ground. Riverdad shot in the stomach, abdomen.
In the gut. He's
In the gut.
Gut shot, which means surely he'll bleed to death.
Pretty good chance dude's not going to make it.
And
Also,
Archie-
very painful death.
Archie's
So
screaming
painful.
out for someone to help him.
And it just ends. It's just end. It's just over. Okay.
Go title card.
Also, Cheryl burns her own house down.
Oh yeah, she does do that.
Yeah, we cruised right over that, which I was thrilled about because once again I was still looking for that Twin Peaksy connection, and that felt very like there was some kind of supernatural.
It's like Twin Peaks without the supernatural vibe. Like everything feels like it doesn't exist in reality, but it's still fairly grounded.
Yeah.
No one speaks backwards.
Correct.
You know.
But in reality, no one is that clean.
Yeah, right, yeah.
Cheryl has a beautiful moment, beautiful costuming, beautiful set design.
I can't do this anymore. Can we do our River best?
She burns down her house. River Dad has been shot.
And Roger was left devastated.
Roger was left devastated.
Alex, who's your number 3? I want to get into the meat of it.
Oh, I didn't realize
bad.
we were going backwards. For number 3, I think I was going to say Veronica's Choice in Men, but that just seems rude at this point.
So Archie?
No,
Or-
so I'm going to give it to pink sweaters. And I know Inanimate Objects, but the use of pink sweaters,
God
both Debbie and her mom in the beginning, incredible.
Very good.
That's a strong choice with the pink sweaters.
Pink sweaters. Your number 3 is pink sweaters. John, who's your number 3?
Well, my number 3 is Archie.
My number 3 is Archie! But, and it comes with a big but. It comes with a big but. You have to understand, Archie has never made our top 3 through the entire season thus far. He's my number 3 because him punching through the ice is the first very legitimately selfless, cool thing that Archie has done. The butt of it is that he's still in this thing with Veronica, even though he's not into it, even though it's very clearly him acting out on his weird mommy issues. The poor kid's dad was shot in front of him, and fine.
You're just trying to give him something by giving
give him
him
that.
Yeah. There's been references, much like Tony Stark, there's been a lot of references to Archie's hands throughout the run of this season. Veronica at one point wraps his hand up after I think he got in a fight. He's a musician, plays guitar, and so...
And didn't stop playing guitar even when he busted his hand on that.
That's true.
Nope,
sheet
that
of
didn't
ice.
make sense.
Yeah, right.
But also is a football player, so has to catch a lot of balls, as they say. So there have been references
that.
to his hands, and has been called out you need to take care of your hands if music is actually your passion. And
It's
in
like
this
the
case,
teen drama version of Buster Bluth losing his hand.
It's very good, yes. That blood on the snow really stuck with me, and it was the moment out of my first watch of this series where I was startled by the realism of it. And occasionally I will be impressed and amazed by the wild turns that this show takes, and its refusal to be normal and be the expected. But in this case, it went for hyper-realism hyper-realism.
Your idea of hyperrealism is my idea of gross theatricality.
Hyper-realism in the vein of stylized realism, with him punching that ice, with him literally spilling his own blood. He does a selfless thing in this episode. His dad gets shot. It's technically his show. This might be the last time, but we are gonna...
The first and only time.
The first and only time Archie gets 2 points on the board. Alex Koch, who's your number 2?
Oh, thank you. Well, I'm going to really lean into the inanimate objects.
Yes. Yes.
God,
I've corrected him.
I'm angry at you, not him.
When you have me back, I won't do this again. I'm going to give it number 2 to the candelabra.
Oh, shit. Oh,
You're giving it to fucking Lumiere.
Yeah.
man.
Because what a way to burn down the house.
Yeah.
Her mother walks in and goes, Cheryl, where are you? And she says, Mother, I'm in here. And Alex Koch says, that's not how people talk.
Which I realized is how people talk. It's specifically one of the most inert statements in the entire show.
It's so good.
So it's to the candelabra that burns the blossoms.
Number 2 to the
house down.
candelabra.
John, who's your number 2?
Well, my number 2 is Cheryl. So it's a very good transition. Obviously, that snow scene has affected me in a very personal way.
Would you say that's a realistic moment for you in cinema?
It's a hyper-realistic moment for me. She goes through another character metamorphosis from being the stereotypical mean girl at the beginning of this season to becoming a tragic figure as we learn more about her backstory, to now this very broken character. It's no longer about her being popular. It's no longer about her dealing with her crazy-ass family. It's about her unhappy with the loss of her brother. In the last season, she says a very poignant thing. She says, everyone's been congratulating me that they found my brother's killer, but I don't feel any better. Just because someone has been caught and justice has been found I don't feel any better, which is, of course...
Although, she did say that when they thought it was FP,
Yes.
that was. And so
Yes.
it may have pointed to the false not having got the right guy.
Which I would have fucking said if you hadn't
listen.
interrupted me. I'm trying to keep negativity out of this podcast. Yes, Roger, that is what I was thinking.
Roger's chewing on his fingernails right
I'm
now.
so
He
sorry.
looks,
looks so
genuinely
scared.
afraid.
Okay. Roger, who's your number 2?
Well, let me tell you about my number 2. It's Betty Cooper.
Yas.
And the reason for that is because we've watched Betty from episode 1 all the way till now. We see this kind of metamorphosis of this character who she kind of lets her mom walk all over her, and she's pretty reserved and like kind of takes things at face value, to a character who doesn't let kind of the truth slide. You know, she finds out what happens to Polly and she stands up to her mom, and she is into it with Jughead, even though they both have a lot of like personal stuff to work out. She's going after the best version of herself. I love that. And Betty Cooper is great.
Moment of truth.
Moment of truth. And don't you dare tell us that your number 1 is Mustang, because I swear to God.
It's happened before.
My number 1 is not an inanimate object. It's a force of nature.
Oh, no!
living, breathing force of nature.
It's
Cheryl?
the current.
Oh, shit.
Oh, shit.
It's about to get real on
You
us.
want reality, that current, it gets called out. Yo, where'd she go? It's the current. They say it's the current. So you know what? My number 1 is that current.
In your burgeoning rap career, I can see you being called the current.
The current.
Alex, the current caught.
Because it's got 2 meanings.
Could also be
John's
a
so
Then-
mad. John's gonna be so mad
Tell
about
us...
You gotta give us your reasoning.
Tell us more about the current.
It feels like you have this whole show. There's some pesky kids who solved a murder. Keeping in mind again that I have not seen this show, there's a murder that is barely acknowledged that apparently has just been solved. This and that. Some kid goes to some other school where he's suddenly popular. There's a slow motion moment in the hallway where someone almost loses their balance. I guess that's Archie. He's fine. He gets it. His hair in the wind. Well played. Looks good. And then all of a sudden, you got Cheryl. Am I getting her name right?
Yes.
You got Cheryl in all of her glory. She has this bitter little smile to match the biting cold around her. And everyone looks at her. And in that moment, she disappears below the ice. And everyone goes for her. And it could be a simple moment of someone makes a bad choice and they get rescued. And it was the one moment of the show that I didn't see coming. When she wasn't right there in the hole. The current got her. And I felt that end, it led to John's favorite moment, his hyper reality, highly theatrical moment in which Archie's hands break into blood, the damage, Cheryl looks amazing for someone who's probably needed some very, very serious rehab in a hospital.
And
Yes.
therapy, and lots of therapy.
Oh, looks amazing, though.
John, I want to know who your number 1 is.
Betty fucking Cooper!
Betty goddamn Cooper!
Hell yeah. She's just great through this episode. She's the same through line of the episode. She knows what she wants. She takes off her own shirt because she's a woman who don't need no man, but loves the man she's with. She's just great. And she's pushing the story forward. And her, as a character, it makes total sense that she would have a moment to speak to the general audience and basically say, like, hey, listen, this isn't a idyllic town, but this place is dark. And we need to stop being such classist assholes and, like, get together. Because you know what? A weird kid from the South Side found a murderer. And that murderer was the richest dude in town. So choke on it. And she's just great. And she wears great outfits the whole time. She wears great pink sweaters. She wears a great dress to give this speech. Grade A costumes through the whole thing. There couldn't be a better person to start and end the season with than Betty Cooper. Roger.
It's fucking Riverdale because it's the last time I might be able to give it to Riverdale because you're a son of a bitch. God damn you.
Was it going to
God
be...
damn you.
Was
John let you fall in love with him.
You let me love him. You all let me love him. Now you've maybe taken him away from me, and I'll never forgive you.
It's what I knew would make this a perfect season finale for this show. For our show, RiverDorks, and for the season finale of Riverdale.
He hasn't been around the last couple episodes to give really good dad advice, but now he may never be able to give good dad advice.
Because Roger absolutely fell in love.
It's because I love him that you all took him away from me.
Now I have to know, was it going to be Riverdad before he was shot in
No,
his goddamn
it's
stomach?
not, but now I can't give it to him anymore, and so you're gonna have to live with that. You're all gonna have to live with that.
Tell us about Riverdad in this episode, Roger.
Riverdad is sad because Riverdad sees that we're all still in it, and Riverdad is in a hard position because he doesn't want to be dealing with Hiram Lodge, but Hermione gives him no choice and fires his entire work crew and offers to buy out his project that is his pride and joy through the
work.
entire season. And then the dude just gets shot in the gut, and it's not fair. I'm so frustrated. I don't want it to be, he's got to pull through. We just watched the episode of Clone High with Luke Perry in it. And I'm just like, today, earlier this afternoon, and I just feel like extra hurt. I'm heartbroken.
Well, this is the point of the show where we'd usually give the full River rankings, and we could reveal who won this season, our top 3 for the whole season, and the rankings of every character throughout the season. So we're going to check back in, we're going to run the math, and we're going to do a special end of the season wrap-up episode where we finally really talk about our favorite characters and where we think the next season's going. Roger, do we have any River mail?
No, we don't. Well, maybe. Let me look. No, nope.
Is there an email address?
Hey, you asked me to give you line reading notes, and that definitely didn't feel genuine.
So can you just give me motivation? I'll go again.
Oh, yeah, sure. Oh, no, we don't have any email.
Oh, hey, Roger, is there an email address?
It was even worse, but yeah, it's riverdorkspodcast@gmail.com. You can tweet us at riverdorkspod. You can support us on Patreon at patreon.com/the_dorkweb. What else is there to talk about?
Well, I mean, a lot happened in this episode. We're also going to give the final Riverdale recap in our season finale.
Oh, we are we?
Duh.
You mean I am?
It's the royal we. This was a dense episode, and we had a lot to talk about. Wait, what do you mean you don't want to do it?
I don't want to do it.
Recap?
I have to describe everything that happens in the television show Riverdale thus far. 13,
Every time?
13 episodes worth at this point.
Jesus Christ. Well, this seems important for me to listen to.
Okay, here we go. Yo, my name is Roger, and I'm here to say that I dig Riverdale in a major way. We got Archie and Jughead, Veronica too. And the other girl's name is Betty. How about you? We got Hermione and Luke Perry and FP too. I'm sorry, I'm gonna stop doing this. On the 4th of July, sweet redheaded boy Jason Blossom is shot and killed. No, I'm sorry. He's kidnapped and held for ransom.
Stop, pause. I want you to take my spot so you can explain the entirety of the show to Alex.
Okay. Now we're facing each other, and now my audio levels are all off.
Oh, fuck.
It's fine. Alex, here's what's up.
Yeah, please.
On the 4th of July, Jason Blossom went missing. What really happened was FP kidnapped him and held him for ransom because he knew he was a Blossom, who are the maple syrup mavens of Riverdale. They're the rich folk, and FP comes from the Southside Serpents, who are the poor folk, who are the maybe drug runners and sketchy folks. His son Jughead is best friends with Archie, who lives next door to Betty, who she and her best friend Veronica are both in love kind of with Archie, but she is also in love with Jughead because they're perfect. Archie doesn't do a whole lot except sleep with his music teacher, Miss Grundy, who is his excuse for not killing Jason Blossom because he's out in the woods with Miss Grundy the night it happens. They bang in her car and she's hot. There's also Cheryl Blossom. Veronica and Archie make out in a closet and it's great, except that now it's like more serious and that's less great. FP was holding Jason hostage, but Jason knew that his dad was running drugs all around town and he was supposed to like inherit the family business. He quit out and was going to run away from town with the mother of his twin children, Polly, who's Betty's sister. His dad finds out and then murders him in cold blood, which is wild. Cheryl is the quote-unquote bad girl of the show, and she's also like kind of too into her twin brother. What else happens? There's a lot going on.
Holy mother
And all of the
Moses.
all of the parents are crazy. Hal Cooper leaves Alice at one point because of the thing with Polly, but what he's not saying is that a distant ancestor used to be a Blossom and he killed the other to keep control of the syrup production company, and the rest of the family branched off and became the Coopers. And so Jason's family would have been incestual, or is incestual, in like a very distant sense. The fact that Hal doesn't say that until he's basically under duress is insane, but Alice throws a brick through Hal's window at the Riverdale Register, which is the newspaper where they're reporting on all of this stuff. So Mustang is the Southside Serpent who was interrogating or like beating up on Jason. I don't really get what his whole thing was, except in that he was murdered by heroin and Cliff Blossom, but everything was framed to look like it was Hiram Lodge, who is Hermione's husband, who is Veronica Lodge's father, who has been in prison for kind of unspecified reasons, but I think they kind of maybe say embezzlement or something like that. So he was framed, but also is not a good guy and is now coming back to Riverdale. And River Dad, who no one deserves, gives Archie good advice all the time, constantly, and also refuses to play ball with Hiram Lodge and is then shot in the gut because none of us deserve River Dad. God damn it. Is that everything that happens on this show? Probably.
There's got to be more, but it sounds amazing.
Do you have any questions?
Do I have any
I'll
questions?
answer questions for you. I don't know what else.
That was perfect.
Perfect.
Thank you.
Thank you for being here.
Oh,
Thank you for doing
thanks
this
for
with
having
us.
me. Thank you for bringing me into your river dorkery.
Thank you. Do you have any final thoughts on Riverdale as a whole?
Or on how we're doing?
On how you guys are doing?
As our executive producer.
I'm going to say very quality repartee, some word pronunciation, grammar questions, but we can circle back to those, maybe never.
I fix those in post. So
Oh, good, good.
Of course.
The show is better than I thought it would be. Not your show. It's about what I was afraid of. But Riverdale is actually, it made me want to watch more bad TV. I kind of miss from the whole Netflix world in which everything has become sort of more nuanced. I love this garbage. It's just great.
Predominantly
Sweet
trashy
garbage.
TV. Just to really, I guess, put this show in perspective, that yes, it is not masterpiece theater. It is not these deep thoughts on what makes us human. I think you can sense the passion in this show from the people making it, and being very self-aware. I think, if nothing else, the show is self-aware in what it is and what it is trying to be.
Profoundly.
And
it feels like they lean into it. And the actors, I felt like there was buy-in. And again, I felt safe watching it in a way because I felt like I was welcomed into the conceit.
And that's what's really confounding to me, is that camp can't be deliberate by definition, but this feels like the most deliberate camp that exists, but is also masterful in the way that it uses its own campiness. And I don't know how they ride that magic line, but it's great.
I've never been more proud of it.
If it had a genre, it would be called About Camp. It's a sincere soap opera with some fun twists and some cool meta ideas and lines and like a really obviously fun story arc that's incoherent when Roger explains it.
No one could.
Well, thank you for coming on the podcast.
Yeah, thanks for making the other
thanks,
12
guys.
episodes possible.
You guys.
Like any podcast, we're going to ask you, do you have anything you want to plug?
Oh, I guess come see Be More Chill, the Broadway musical. Get your tickets now. It's really awesome.
The video content's going to be off the
Video
easy.
content is sick. And I guess for fun pictures and dumb tweets, you could follow me at Alex Basco Koch.
We have an email and a Twitter of our own.
We did, and I mentioned them. It's you can email us at riverdorkspodcast@gmail.com. You can tweet us at riverdorkspod. Get in touch if you like the show. If you hate the show, give us 5 stars on iTunes because that's the cool thing to do with a podcast.
Please don't spoil anything for Roger.
Don't
There's
spoil
so
anything
much exciting
for this
things coming up.
sweet baby-faced. Should we sign off like we always do? I'm Roger Miller.
I'm John Erickson.
And like we always say,
Okay,
quality always.
Let's go, Mom.
That's season 1 in the can.
Good work, boys.